Welcome our Facebook audience to this interview with Maestro Ernesto Estigarribia. We are very excited to welcome him today for our very first interview of the World Conductors Forum. We have a series of speakers who are coming to speak with us about their journeys and lessons learned as conductors, and we are very grateful for him and his sharing with us today. So, welcome also to you, Ernesto, and thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Elena. It's so good to connect again with you.
It is very good to see you. I'm going to share a little bit about Ernesto and then we will get started. Hailed for his expert direction by the Fanfare magazine, Paraguayan conductor Ernesto Estigarribia is assistant conductor of the Quad City Symphony Orchestra, music director of the Quad City Symphony Youth Ensembles, and conducting staff member at the Greater Twin Cities Youth Symphonies. Previous posts include music director of the Buffalo Community Orchestra and artistic director of the Southeastern Minnesota Youth Orchestras. Ernesto has guest conducted multiple other orchestras in the United States as well as several in Argentina and Paraguay. In addition to his symphonic performances, Ernesto has led opera productions of Johnny Schicchi, Idomeneo, Albert Herring, and Weiss Rose. An accomplished violist as well, Ernesto has performed extensively in Europe and the Americas. His festival appearances include Britain Pairs Orchestra, Orchestra of the Americas, and Festival de Música de Santa Catarina. Ernesto holds degrees from Pittsburgh State University and the University of Minnesota, where he studied with Mark Russell Smith. Personally, me and Ernesto were both at the University of Minnesota at the same time, and so we met each other there, and I was also a rehearsal assistant for him for one of his orchestras in Gitzi's. So it's very fun for us to be able to talk again and be here together.
I agree.
So I would like to start with a very big question, and you can be as specific or as general as you'd like. But what do you think your purpose is as a conductor, or you can even say as a musician? And what do you think is universal in that purpose?
Well, I think music is universal in and of itself, and there's something so powerful about music and the act of making music together. And I think that's where my role as a conductor lies, on bringing people together for the creation of the greater good, which I think is it just gives me goosebumps just thinking about that. The power, like, we are more powerful together than in isolation, and I think that is my role in the music making and in just music advocacy in general.
Definitely, I agree. And one of the things that I feel more strongly since having been involved with this foundation is that our impact is so much greater the more people that we are able to harness with us and thus reach out to those around us too. It really makes a big difference. And sometimes it doesn't take very much to make a big difference and impact.
And it's very interesting because even world-class experienced musicians, like you think of Pinka Zuckerman, and people often ask him, can you play a Bach sonata or a partita? And he said, like, no, I am at this point in my life where, like, I want to play music with others. So even world-class musicians like him, who have accomplished pretty much everything in life, they want to play music with others too. And there's just something so powerful and magical about that.
And these days we are yearning for that more. Probably more than ever. At least I can speak in my lifetime more than ever. That's something that I want, is to collaborate and be with others, because it does hold so much potential and power, and it means so much emotionally. It's beyond just doing something. It is really about connecting with other people.
Absolutely, and not just musicians. I think audiences are craving the idea of being in a concert hall, experiencing music vibrating literally through their physical bodies, and I think people are just they cannot wait to get back into those experiences. And I think if we learned anything uh, during this pandemic is, no matter how sophisticated our hardware for recordings and like our software and logic and all of that, you cannot replace the concertizing aspect of music making, which is bringing people together and performing for a live audiences. I think there's something so powerful about that, and I think that's actually the biggest lesson. You don't miss it until you don't have it anymore, right? And so I think that's the lesson of the year.
Yes, and I would dare to say that conductors are maybe feeling it more than even musicians, because your role is is founded upon having those other people in front of you. And without that there physically, it's, I imagine, very difficult. It's hard for me even to imagine with my limitations because they're very different from yours.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing about conductors. A lot of conductors, including myself, like we were very active in like doing interviews, and there were some more entrepreneurial conductors that like started podcasts and blogs and whatnot, because they just want to find purpose in life. And when you cannot have live music making, like what do you do with yourself? You can't use your skills and talents in the way you're used to. So like you have to reinvent yourself. But I have been extremely lucky during this pandemic, because both my both my jobs, we were very committed to having some sort of in-person music making. Of course, with all socially distanced orchestra, and like to the extreme of having like wind instruments in like these bags, uh, all these added challenges is not the same, but at least we were making music and we were together with other people in the same room. And so in that regard, I feel extremely lucky.
Definitely, and I really commend that work because um, it's helping a lot of people to have that outlet. I know that it is, because those sorts of experiences are for me too. I would like to ask you a little bit about your background. So if you could go back to the very beginning, where do you come from and what does it mean to you where you came from and where you are now?
It means everything. I grew up in Asuncion, the capital of Paraguay, right in the center of South America. And uh, I say to kids, Paraguay is the belly button of South America, because it's right in the center, and is one of two landlocked countries in the continent. So it has a unique culture, because it also has a strong influence from the indigenous people. In fact, it's a bilingual country. Um, we speak Spanish and indigenous Guarani, and it's very common that you mix both languages in the street when you're talking to people. 80% of the population speaks Guarani, which is quite amazing that you don't find that anywhere else in the continent. And I'm talking about the mixed race people, not the 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 indigenous people only. I'm talking about everybody. Um, so I mean, that is my upbringing, and it means everything to me. That it is who I am. It is my iOS is how I think, and and it's sometimes strange to live not in the place where you developed, but now I am at a point where I can feel kind of like I am like an in between now. Like, I have lived in this country for, I don't know, 10, 11 years. So, that's pretty much my whole adult life. And So I have a good mix, a good mix of influence from both places.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I know, and I also mentioned a little bit for people who might be listening, but if you didn't listen from the beginning, Ernesto is a violist. And so, can you speak about what your instrument taught you and how that journey looked before you transformed into a conductor?
So I saw an orchestra for the first time, and it kind of like I'm sounding like a broken record already, because it's again the whole thing about making music with others. So I studied piano when I was a child, and the first time I saw an orchestra, I said like, I think I want to do that. I want to make music with others. And so I went to the National Conservatory of Paraguay, and the director said to me, a very old man, like kind of like an oracle of music in Paraguay. And he says, stand up and extend your arms. And somehow I must have looked like a monkey, because he noticed that my arms were long and I have a long spine. Anyway, he said like, I the viola would be a good fit for me somehow. Okay. So I spent all that summer like, viola, what is that? And, I knew the violin, I knew the cello, but the viola was not on my radar. So, I'm okay, let's try it. First lesson, and because I play piano, I know how to read treble clef and bass clef. So my viola teacher said, okay, he writes in the staff paper like this B looking clef, and it's like, what is this? And he said like, this middle note is the C, and it's like my brain is exploding. I'm like doing all the math trying to read the alto clef. Anyway, but the more I it wasn't so stimulating to do it by myself, like going to lessons and like, but the moment I could play just a few notes, I joined like the very beginning orchestra, and the rest is history, because it's such a cool thing to play the viola and be in the middle register of the string, because you get to hear a lot. You have to hear and you have to listen, and so you just like absorb everything that is around you, and like you spend a lot of time listening. And so now going into my conducting career, like I learned all these pieces from within, and it's so cool to learn it that way. So a lot of like the standard symphonies and stuff, like I don't really have to play on the piano, because I have that oral reference in my brain from where I was a child.
I think that's a very important lesson for students to learn sooner rather than later, that learning your part in orchestra is also not just about your part. That's not orchestral playing, it's being part of something bigger and learning how to listen to all of those moving parts that are happening while you execute what you need to do or while you count what you need to do. But you give us a very great example of how that actually shaped your career beyond viola too, which is very cool to
Well,
see.
it's the old saying that in rehearsal or in orchestra, you don't learn your part, you learn everybody else's part.
Right,
So, and that is so true.
definitely. So now you work with youth, you also work with adults and professional musicians. What characterizes you when you are on the podium? Do you feel like you have different things that shine through, especially in front of certain audiences? What do you feel like your orchestras see when you are in front of them?
Wow. I don't know what they see. I'd be interested to know what they see. But what I try to inculcate and what I try to instill is to energize people and to care, and to care a lot about what we do, because I think having a talent is not a gift but a responsibility, and it's the way nature and just life happen, and it's the way you contribute to society. Um, So I believe that everybody has talents and skills that is their responsibility to nurture and um, to to care deeply about what we do. I think music is a selfless act because we do it for others. Um, we spend hours and hours and hours and hours practicing, and though it might give you a personal satisfaction and you might grow and all of that, you at the end of the day are doing it for others, are doing it to touch people's lives through sound, and you are like trying to like craft this beautiful sound, trying to refine this vibrato, try to play in tune so um, you can provide a transformative experience for those who are listening to you. And so I think that's what I try to inculcate. I don't know if I succeed or not, but that's certainly my goal.
So, to preface, I agree with you, and this is a very big concept, especially for young people. So, how do you instill that in young people beyond setting an example?
There's a writer that I admire a lot. His name is Eric Booth, and I encourage everybody who's listening to this to go check him out. He writes a lot and very interesting stuff. And he said that 80% of what you teach is who you are. So I try to lead by example and show um, show how much I care, and hopefully through the example, hopefully they seeing that feel like, man, if he's caring like that, I should be caring about it too. And I want the orchestras with whom I work to understand that I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for us, for the plural. And so that's what I believe wholeheartedly, that 80% of what you teach is who you are. And in my case, what I am is someone who cares deeply about what we're doing.
So, I also would like to ask you a little bit along the same vein. Um, what is leadership to you? Another very open-ended question. So, as specific or general as you see that.
I think leadership is empowering people and using your people skills to empower others to reach their full potential, and to set a culture that will benefit most people, that will benefit hopefully all people, a culture that is inclusive, a culture that everybody can grow in and everybody can contribute into. And I think leadership is that, is bringing people together and empowering them.
And how do you do that?
Well, man, these questions are hard, Elena. Well, let me see. How do you do that? It's the thing is, like, leadership is, well, I mean, conducting in general is, at the end of the day, is just a metaphor of who you are as a person, right? Uh, there's no makeup, like, there's no makeup that you can use to hide certain things that you don't like about your personality. It's not how you move your arms, your body, how you shake. Is about showing your vulnerable self. And I think you have to be genuine, first of all, because you have to generate trust. Conducting is really tricky because it's not just about music. Music is part of it, but there's also working with people. It's like being the CEO of a company. The CEO of these, like, enormous companies, they can't possibly know everything. but they have to empower those who know to be extremely productive and to care as much as they do. So I think it's you obtain good leadership by being genuine, by being vulnerable, uh, by not trying to hide your weaknesses, because we all have weaknesses, and hopefully um, with the people that you bring with you, you're stronger. And but you know, try not to hide my weaknesses, you know. Sometimes I try to tune a chord in rehearsal, and it's like, you know, go higher and it should have been lower. Oh, then maybe go the other way. You know, it happens. And you know, you say, or you know, how often do you hear conductors saying, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, you know, or just like admitting a mistake. I mean, it's like any other person in the room. We all make mistakes. So I think it's about being genuine and about being open about your about your about you.
Hmm. And what I hear you saying too is to do all of those things with humility, which I think we can always use more of in
Absolutely.
ourselves and in other people. And so that's very beautiful that it means so much to you and is so central in what you're trying to do.
But you know, it's so tricky in today's society, uh, in a society where it's pretty much like uh, most aspects of our lives are infested with social media and recording every good thing that happens to us, and and hiding all the things that we. So in a way, social media has made us less vulnerable, which is tricky because now I can see, like, definitely, like, the younger generations, those who you know, I when I was a child, there was no social media. That came later in my life. But like those people who don't know any different, uh, they are like silo. And so that is a very cultural shift that I notice today.
Definitely. Now, can you maybe preface and go through a situation in which you felt was a significant learning experience for you and what you gained from it and how it still affects you now? Because I'll give you a moment to think also, because I think something that's important for, I speak for our students to understand, is that learning is lifelong too. And it's not just something that happens when you're 12 or when you're 14, but even as adults too, we still have these learning experiences that if we want to be our best selves and if we want to contribute to our communities and be an active member of society, we always have to be open to learning.
I don't know if I have one event for you, but I have a time in my life where I kind of started like figuring out, like, this music thing is kind of cool. I like doing this. And the conservatory that I attended in Paraguay was very dogmatic, in a way that they were not like teaching kids to play music just for fun. I mean, Paraguay was a place where there was a desperate need for populating the place with able musicians, uh, musicians that could read music, musicians that could sit in an orchestra and play, uh, you know. Uh, so they were training professional musicians of the future, but since they were, like, you know, 8 years old, 9 years old. So um, it was that time of my life that, like, my operating system in my brain uh, realized, like, this is not child's play. I mean, it's fun, but it's not child play. This is serious, and you have to devote the time that it requires to be good at it. And um, and the culture in that conservatory was like, you know, we were all competing, like, who was practicing more, and like, you only practice 6 hours today. I practice 8. Like, you are worthless. Like, 6 hours is nothing. You're wasting your time. So, we were constantly like that. And then when we were get tired of practicing, we would pull a cassette tape and listen to whatever, a Mozart quartet, and like get together and play a quartet. Like, we were like consumed with that lifestyle pretty much. And it, I think that perhaps was like the most transformative time of my life, the very beginning.
I think you were very lucky to have such an immersive experience. That's something that can make such a difference too, but and is not very common. At least in the United States, I would say that's not something that we see so much in music education.
Right. Well, I think it also has to do with the pressure to get into college that high schoolers have nowadays. I mean, in my youth orchestra here in the Quad Cities, I have the most talented musicians in my orchestra, but they are also like the best at speech at school, and they are like the quarterback of their football team, and like they are top of, and they're in like this student government. I mean, they are in everything because they are the smartest kids, the most talented kids. They are achieving everything they can, and then they go and they get into good schools and everything. So it's it's kind of that pressure the people grow up here with, of trying to like accomplish everything, get a resume, and like so they
Yes.
can um so that
And
that's good and bad, I guess. It's just different.
yes, it's being well rounded, and there is a perspective I think that you can be well rounded through music too, and you can still achieve a lot of those same fundamental values and even fundamental skills through music. And music is very multifaceted in that way and can provide a lot of opportunities. But sometimes, yes, we have like this vision, this blocked vision on what music can be. And it's only one thing when I
Right.
think it really can be a lot. The final question that I have for you is, what would your advice be to a younger Ernesto or to a young student today?
Those are two different things.
Okay. Answer
uh,
both.
well, I mean, I would say, see, I didn't have internet in my home or in my pocket, like I feel like that's a like, the average person spends 5 to 7 hours on their phone every day. It's ridiculous. uh, just imagine if you sleep for 8 hours, which people don't anymore because they are on their phones, then you know it's crazy. There's no time to do anything because people are mindlessly consuming content on the internet. And so I would say, um, you have to sift through what goes in your brain, like be selective with what goes in your brain. Don't be consumed with everything, and definitely don't be just like getting fed with everything that comes your way. Go look for things. YouTube is such a great tool if you use it wisely.
Mhm.
If you just watch cat videos, which I do love, by the way, uh, but you can spend all day also watching cat videos there. uh, my wife loves cats, and I don't know why we don't have one, but we don't. But like, she likes watching those videos, so
She
I'm
makes up for it with the YouTube.
exactly, yeah, she exactly, she gets the benefit of the world's cats.
Uh-huh.
But like, be very very selective with what goes in your brain, because everything that goes in your brain informs how you see the world, and how you think critically. So I say that.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We are really honored to have you, and it makes me really happy to connect with you also. and to hear how you are doing and your thoughts on some of these things. I appreciate it not only for our students to hear from you, but also from the families of those students, because we have a lot of parents who want to be supportive in as many ways as they can, and they maybe aren't musicians. And it helps for them to hear from people who are also adults in the field and understand children in the way that you do. And so,
that
thank you
that
for
is that is
sharing.
an amazing thing, because it's not just transforming the life of one student. It's like behind
Mm,
the student there's an entire family, and then when you have concerts, recitals, there's someone that is ironing the shirt for that child, and there's an older sibling or a parent who's inspired by the work ethic of the student. So
yes.
yeah, it's a very transformative experience.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
so valuable to hear all your input and thoughts on these things. So, thank you for sharing with us,
Thank you so
and
much,
we hope
Elena.
to do it again sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's good talking to you.
Thank you.